Okay. We are here recording a super sick match that I just played, and I wanted to record it now when it's like fresh in my mind and just go through all of the spots. So it was 3 games of um, Cube in like a 4v4 team draft. So this is our deck. Our mana base is a little awkward. We're 5 colors with our white card being Teferi. I'm not playing a basic plains, even though I have Fabled Passage and Prismatic Vista, because I couldn't fit the land in. Um, that's kind of the downside of taking these sort of fixing lands. Anyway, I have Recall and Mox. I have Green Sun Zenith to get Hexdrinker and Birds. I have Reanimate and Shallow Grave with Itali, Archon, and then Grave Titan and Crabomination to reanimate. I'm playing Devoted Druid as like a double ramp, like Pentad Prism sort of effect to hardcast these. I can hardcast all of them. I have Fury with only 2 red cards. I have Kaito, Bitter Triumph, Ledger Shredder, and Bone Shards and Fable as discard outlets to get my reanimates online. And then I have a Daze, and then just some more mid-range cards. And I'm playing against Blue White Control from Quiniac. We know a lot of his deck, but not all of it because of how the team drafts work. You kind of see some of their decks as each match goes, because your teammates kind of get screenshots after they play them. So they know a lot of my deck. I know a lot of their deck. I'll kind of go through what cards I already know um, as the as we review the game, and just try to put you guys in my where I was at um, mentally. And then this is basically a game that was like, or a match that was so crazy that I feel like I'm gonna want to watch it later myself, and it's best to just review it right now after I played it while my mind's still fresh. So we lose a dice roll, and this is our hand. So we're gonna keep, and he keeps 7. Let's island go. This is probably gonna get me a mountain, so or an island, but I'm gonna just start on mortuary tapped to try to hex drinker on turn 2. I find an island. I think you have to keep it here, um, just so you can cast the Uro later, because he is playing control. Like if I can escape this at some point, I have 2 bad lands which don't cast escaped Uro, but I think you got to top this here. And he considers and keeps 1 on top, and then he just goes plains go. So what I've seen in the screenshots is he has his counterspell suite is Force of Negation, Normalize, Miscalculation, and Counterspell. I think it's those 4. Um, so he could have Miscalc or counters or Normalize here, but obviously I'm just going to play Hex Drinker. And his removal suite is Swords to Plowshares and Brazen Borrower and Winds of Abandon. That's all I saw, those 3. So I'm just going to play Fabled Passage because if he taps out next turn for like something, I can play my Fable here. And he doesn't do anything. So I'm like, okay. Plays Colonnade, passes. I draw Fury, so I play Island, and this is already a super difficult spot. I kind of have 3 options. I can Fable, Uro, or Hex Drinker, and I felt like um, the way he was doing this, he might have had like swords or something, and he didn't want to swords my Hex Drinker last turn because he wants me to pump mana into it. So I felt like leveling up was not a good play. I felt like jamming could be a good play because if he has swords and no counter spells, then obviously that's really good. But I think I went with Uro in the end just because I wanted to um, kind of hold on to all my resources. I also know he has Hull Breacher and Narset in his deck, so those 2 cards make me want to play the Uro and get my draw while I can. And let's say he doesn't have a swords or anything here, which is also super possible, then Uro is the best card into counterspell. Even if it gets like No More Lies to exile it, it's completely fine. So it resolves. I draw Shredder. I put in Scrubland, and I attack, and he Brazen Borrowers me. So that kind of makes sense. He didn't want to do it last turn because he wanted to wait for me to spend more mana. Okay. So he just goes land go, and here I have some choices, but I think I should start. The natural instinct was to play Shredder and then play Fable, and I didn't want to play my land because I wanted this to get normalized, right? So my Fable can resolve. But in hindsight, this could have been a mistake because if he has Hole Breacher, then the Shredder is really bad, right? Because it connives, and then I just have to discard a card. So it resolves, and then I think I choose to play Hexdrinker here because if he has Hole Breacher, I want to be able to like Fury it. And also, this does also play around counterspells the best. Like if I go land Hexdrinker, I can play around Miscalc. And let's say his Miscalc in hand is his only interaction, or even Force of Negation and Miscalc, then I'm playing like super well around those. So I kind of just picked a suite of counterspells to play around. I think it's kind of reasonable. But he has Hole Breacher here, so this is pretty fucked. Now I'm hoping obviously he doesn't have swords too, because that would trigger this as a second spell, so I'd have to discard another card. Or even like another counterspell. But here I'm pretty sure I just have to play Fury here. And Fury away his board, his Hole Breacher. Because if I pass and then he casts two spells, super easy, right? He has a Brazen, Treasure, and 4 cards. Then I would have to discard, because I would have to connive again. So this is what I do. I pump my Hexdrinker and pass, and he doesn't do anything. Okay. He goes land. Prismatic ending the Hexdrinker. So I didn't see that. This was the first time I saw this card. So I was like, that's pretty annoying. So I draw Teferi, which is good. I'm just going to Teferi here. It continues to play around Miscalc, which is what I've been doing the whole game. And he just has regular counterspell, so okay. Swing for 2. He goes Mana Vault, pass, only 2 cards left in hand. I draw a Recall. I'm like, let's go. Cast that. It resolves, and I hit these 3 cards, which was really good, right? So now I can Lotus Petal, Connive, trigger, discard Archon, and then reanimate it. And there's nothing else really to reanimate, so that's going to be my play. I'll draw Grave Titan, but still the same. And he cycles Miscalc, so I played around it very well. He's trying to find something, I don't know. But that resolves. He discards, and then he discards Winds of Abandon, 1 card left. And I'm like, ain't no way, because this is like the best card here, right? It's the only thing that can do anything. So at this point, it means he has Treachery. That's the only other card I saw. So maybe I could have reanimated something else, because now it's going to be kind of hard to beat Treachery. Like, even though I'm so far ahead, Treachery is like the one card that can swing the whole game. So here, I think, do I end up playing Devoted Druid or Chariot? I just go Devoted Druid. Why to do this? I think mostly because if I know he has Treachery, I want to be able to Uro next turn to try to find a removal spell. I have like Bitter Triumph and Bone Shards, because I don't know how else I can beat this. So I'm going to do that instead of playing Chariot and burning my Lotus Petal, meaning I can't escape Uro. So he just flashes a Brazen, and then I think just Treachery is my thing, and swings with a Colonnade too, because he untapped his lands. Draw Island. Here, I obviously escape Uro. Hit a land, and then I can cast Grave Titan here, which is kind of nice, because he can't kill me next turn. I'll sack the Druid, take like, chump this, take 3, 7, 10, and then maybe I can attack with Uro and Grave Titan and maybe draw something. But unfortunately, in his one draw off of his draw step for turn, he hit a No More Lies to counter it, and then this game is just kind of over. he attacks, and I think I draw 2 lands. I attack with Uro, but don't draw any action and lose. Okay. So that was game 1. Now post board, I went ahead and cut some cards for more fair stuff. So I cut Archon because it's the hardest one to cast out of all of them. I cut Archon. I cut Ledger Shredder because I think it's just too bad versus Hullbreacher, to be honest. And I cut Green Sun Zenith because it's kind of slow. Uro's not great to tutor. He has a lot of answers to Tax Drinker, so it just wasn't that good. So I got those 3 cards. I boarded it in. Sylvan Library, Tireless Tracker, which are both not good versus Hullbreacher, but they are better than Shredder, and I can kind of pick my spots when to crack the clue and stuff. And I still have some removal for the Hullbreacher. And then I also boarded into Shauna's Tidebinder, because actually, I wonder if I boarded this only in for game 3. But I saw Shorakai, the white-blue artifact crew guy, and Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, and Narset. So he has kind of a lot of hits for my Tidebinder, and Venser too and stuff. So this is game 2. Pretty sure you just have to mold these hands. I have Recall and a Mox in my deck. This hand's just pretty shit. Drawn to this. So he keeps 7. I'm gonna keep in bottom Grave Titan, and hope to draw like blue or red lands. I mean, I have a bunch of good spells in my hand. So it goes Island Go. I draw Shallow Grave, which is horrible. Attack, level my guy up twice, and he just passes back. Bone Shards, like horrible. Kind of wish now I at least had the Grave Titan, right? It would be good with these 2 cards, but unlucky. So I pump Hex Drinker, swing with it. It all got through, so he probably has a bunch of just counter spells he's sitting on. You pass back. I draw Devoted Druid, and then I choose to level it up. That's kind of an interesting spot. Devoted Druid doesn't really do anything for me. It makes this level up to 8 next turn anyway, but the problem is if he counters this, he can stop this from getting to 8 next turn, right? Because that's how I spent my mana. And getting this to 8 next turn is pretty critical because of Treachery, and like Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, like I want to get it to 8 before he gets 5 lands. So yeah, I've drawn horribly, but then he wins me, so this is kind of unfortunate. I was kind of hoping this would just carry me, but at least I get a land out of it. I think it's clear that we just want the island here. We have 2 blue spells. I'm going to draw Uro. So I'm just going to slam Recall here. He doesn't have Normalized mana up, and it plays around Miscalc. If he has Counterspell, that is what it is. It's 1 card. Or Negation, but Negation's always hitting my stuff. He does have Negation, pitch Treachery. So Treachery is quite good. Kind of interesting that he pitched that. And obviously I'm just going to play Devoted Druid and pass. Here he plays Jace Wielder, and then mills himself for 2. His Mana Vault Island. I draw Chariot. Sorry, let me close my door really quick. Okay. So Chariot's my draw. I think it's important to land the Teferi right now. He has a bunch of counter spells still left in his deck, and like Venser and stuff. So Chariot's good pressure, but I think I'm just supposed to go Teferi and then Bone Shards this Jace, and discard like Shallow Grave or Uro. Probably Shallow Grave. I went down with Teferi, by the way, because of like Prismatic Ending and stuff. He has another color. And Hullbreacher. I guess Hullbreacher can only cast a sorcery, but I think that was correct. And then I drew Reanimate off that, and then Bone Shards, pitch Shallow Grave over Uro, because Shallow Grave's not that good. I already have Reanimate, right? And then he plays Teferi, goes up, plays Island, passes. So he has 4 cards in end. Draws Swamp, which is really not a good land. So here I'm just going to play Chariot and pass. I have an instant speed reanimate here, but there's nothing in the graveyard. He goes up with Teferi again. Plays Narset. Finds Portable Hole. Portable Holes down my cat token. And also Prismatic Endings my other cat tokens. Now I can't really crew this easily. Even if I can't copy anything. So he passes back, he has 3 cards in hand. I draw Tali, which is just a horrible draw. So I go ahead and cast Uro, just so I can crew the Chariot too. Even though I can't draw a card with Narset, obviously, but now I'm just going to go ahead and attack the Narset down. Gain 3 life. So I kind of don't like my spot, but maybe I can draw out of it. Plus this Teferi, plays Island, and plays Jar, and then plays Breacher. And he has 2 cards left. So this is pretty fucked. I'm not sure if he's going to do this now or not. I basically need to get like lucky if I let this resolve. So I think the play I should have made here, and I realized it like 2 seconds too late, is reanimate my Uro, instant speed, and hope to draw into Daze, because if I just let this resolve, I mean, I don't really have anything going on, and this reanimate is honestly not that good. I would have to draw like my Bone Shard is already gone, right? So I'd have to draw like Bitter Triumph to be able to discard this Atali for this to be valuable. So I think I should have just gave myself equity to reanimate this and hit Daze. The problem is, in that spot, like, it's pretty bad still. I still don't have a land, but at least I drew a card. And then I'll draw a card for draw step, Teferi and stuff. But I let this resolve, and then he chose to just pass and hold up 2 mana and not Jar. So he's going to Jar next turn. And then obviously, funny, there's a Daze on top of my deck. So I'm like, this is pretty fucked. I should have went for my play. It would have worked out. But we'll play on. So here I'm going to minus Teferi on the Hole Breacher. To kind of like force his hand. Because he's definitely not going to crack this now, because he'll get no value out of it. He can't cast like his sorceries. So that's going to resolve. And then I basically have to hope to draw into something that can do like kind of anything here. I don't know. Draw Stomping Ground. So that's actually not bad. What that allows me to do is play Fable. No, I go ahead and okay. I reanimate the Uro. My plan is to hope that he has Counterspell in his hand, convert the Daze. Convert the Daze on his Counterspell here to bounce the island to play again to flashback Uro. So reanimate, Daze, and then these 3 cards is enough to flashback to Uro. And then I can crew the Chariot and attack like the Teferi or him or something. So I feel like that was my best bet. It resolved. This also was kind of always my move. I have to just like reanimate the Uro and try to draw towards stuff. So I draw Grave Titan. But this Uro allows me to put in the Stomping Ground to not use my land drop yet. So my Daze play actually still works here. Once I cast Fable and he counters it. So I crew the Chariot before Uro dies. I use Devoted Druid, Scrubland, and Stomping Ground to cast Fable. He has the counterspell. I float a blue. I Daze. I play Island. I untap my Devoted Druid for double green. Play Uro. Draw birds. Okay. So this is the resulting position, right? I attack his Teferi because I don't think attacking him is that relevant, and attacking this is pretty relevant. Now he can't downtick without it killing itself. And I get another Fable. So this is my resulting position after that like horrible sequence. Got kind of fortunate in my draws there, and the Daze still converted, which was pretty funny. Like the Daze there on my turn with what happened, I think was probably better than if I drew into it with Reanimate, countered Hole Breacher. I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell, but this is the spot he Hole Breachers, he upticks with Teferi, to retain the card that he draws after the memory jar. So if it's like a counter spell, he gets rewarded for this play. And then cracks the jar. My hand goes away for the turn. And he plays Thraben, so that's a good sign. He plays Talisman, good sign. He swords my Uro, okay, kind of annoying. And then he plays Venser, bounces a cat token. And then I think plays Brazen Borrower too, bounces another cat token. And that's all. So he has 4 treasures, and he untaps 2 lands, and he has a clue. And this is his board. He has a Brazen still. His final 2 cards were 2 lands. So I can't do anything with the reflection. So him discarding this Triumph signifies to me, because he didn't cycle it, right? What he could have done was cycle it with his treasures to try to hit something else. Kind of signals that I think he has Smirking Spelljacker, which is a card we know about, because he wants to keep all his treasures around. Now he's 6 mana. So I'm like, how the fuck am I going to beat a Smirking Spelljacker here? I think the only play I have is to jam Grave Titan. It's obviously really good if it resolves. I can't just do nothing. And then I get to play Birds for Etali next turn. So, unfortunately, he has the Spelljacker. I play Birds and pass. He starts his turn by cracking Clue. Plays Shorakai. Now he has 7 cards in library, and his Jace is dead. So I'm like, alright, only way I can win is by decking him, kind of. I'm at 28, so it's kind of a reasonable plan. He's not going to be able to draw with this, really, and get 1/1s. He draws with Teferi, gets it to 5, plays land, and hits me, and plays my Grave Titan off Spelljacker. I don't block, obviously. Untaps, and he's a Colonnade, and I'm at 19. Okay. Draw a Mountain. Play Etali, and I'm hoping, like, if his lands are on top of his deck, then I can mill a bunch of lands, and then hit his spell. Mill a bunch of cards. So now this is kind of promising. Like, if my Etali resolves and hits well, it'll be good. He has no more lives in his deck. I'm hoping that it's these 6 cards, because I can't win otherwise. So it resolves. I hit a Fury and a Miscalc. So obviously not casting the Miscalc, but Fury's a pretty strong hit. Here I go 4 at Teferi, because 1, I want my reflection around, so I don't want him to Teferi tuck it. He has Swords, Winds, and Prismatic Ending all gone. I don't think he has more removal in his deck, as far as I know from the screenshots. Treachery is also gone. Brazen and Venser are also gone. And Teferi can actually tuck itself, so to like make him prolong the game, basically. So I felt like getting this to 1 is basically the same as killing it, because now he can't really go up with it, or else he's just going to deck. I could have put it to 2, and it's the same thing, but there was no X1 on the battlefield, so I would rather just deal all 4 to it. Okay, that's my move, and then I pass. And just try to survive for a couple more turns. He flashes in Brazen, goes ahead and animates Colonnade, swings with all of these. Now, here I think I'm supposed to just trade Etali for Grave Titan, and my plan here is to Reflection, copy the Fury, kill Smirking and Brazen, and then Chariot, crew the Chariot, attack, copy the Fury token off of Reflection to kill like some zombies. Then after I do that, I can kind of hold the fort, because next turn I can Reflection my Fury at instant speed to kill the Colonnade. So hopefully that all makes sense. The block is definitely Etali on Grave Titan here to trade, so that he doesn't keep making more zombies. And I draw a land, which is unfortunate. I wish I drew like a creature to crew easier, because now I have to copy and then use both my Furies to crew the Chariot. I swing. Fury down, Hullbreacher and Venser. Makes sense. And I still have enough blockers to block Shorakai if it tries to get through. And, yep. He goes ahead and animates Colonnade. Attacks, I just chump, because why not? Plays Ocelot Pride, passes the turn, I draw another land, but now I basically got him, and he concedes. So that was a crazy game. I beat Hullbreacher plus Memory Jar, and also him smirking spelljackering my Grave Titan. I beat both of those in the same game by just decking him, because he kind of ran out of shit to do. So crazy stuff. Let's go to game 3. Now I know basically all of his deck at this point, so kind of easy for me to craft a game plan. But it's not that easy because like his deck does so many things and he can have so many different counters and removals at each point of the game. So he goes ahead and keeps 7 on the play. I'm just gonna keep this hand. It's fine. It has enough resources to do stuff. Colonnade tapped. I draw Daze. I don't play the Stomping Ground because if I draw a blue land, I want to Devoted Druid with Daze up, and then Blackleaf Cliffs untapped on the 3rd turn, obviously. He plays Pride on turn 2, and then Island, okay. I draw Hex Drinker, but here, obviously, you just have to play the Devoted Druid to try to block this. Actually, it doesn't matter if I block this, right? Yeah, he just gains the life anyway. But Devoted Druid still lets me play Tracker and shit next turn. So that's my play. Ocelot Pride's pretty brutal here, but I can kind of go over it a little bit. He just endings my thing. I'll sack it so that it's a card for Uro in the graveyard and stuff. I draw a Recall, but no blue. So here I think you just have the Tireless Tracker to represent a block. Profitable block. And then he goes Island and then just passes here. So all the counter spells are in his range now, Venser, stuff like that. I draw Chariot. This is kind of interesting. What do I want to do? Hex Drinker plays around all of the counter spells other than actual counterspell, while Chariot plays into all of them, right? Force Negation, Counterspell, Normalize, Miscalc. So, Venser too. So I think I'd rather just play Hex Drinker. It's also more of a chance he doesn't have like his swords in hand or wins, because he didn't kill this to get in with Ocelot Bride. So easy Hex Drinker here. And then I just go ahead and level it, so that if he draws, swords next turn, he can't kill it. And the level, also Brazen, but I think he Brazens it now. What happens here? No, he cycles Triumph, so I'm like, alright, let's go. He's trying to find his swords right there, but he doesn't. And I pass, no attacks. He plays a Plains for turn. Then plays the Shorkai. So obviously this is good if he ever gains life, because now he's going to make a bunch of dudes. And he just activates right there. Discards a Memory Jar. So that means he's less likely to have Hullbreacher in his hand and stuff. So at this point in the game, I'm trying to evaluate his strongest moves. And his strongest cards are like Treachery and Overloaded Winds of Abandon, right? So Winds of Abandon is the scariest because it'll just wipe me, and then he can attack with Ocelot Pride, get a bunch of Johns, have Colonnade, have Shorkai, that sort of stuff. So I'm thinking about, if he has Winds right now, should I... This is obviously like a blue source, which is good, but it's not an island, so I can't Daze without holding it up. But I concluded that obviously we can't just pass with this up at any point with 2 mana here, because I just need to use all my mana and stuff this turn, so it's just too bad to do that. So then I'm like, alright, if he has Winds in his hand, I might not be able to beat it this turn, but if it's still in his deck and he draws it later, what's my best plan forward? And I think that's just going Chariot and trying to end this game. He still has 26 cards in his deck. Yes, he's drawing like 3 cards a turn, but like I have a Hex Drinker I can level up to get it unblockable later, and if I just Chariot now, I can start pressuring next turn. So I think I'm supposed to go like Islet, Recall myself, see if I have any other moves other than just playing Chariot. If not, I'll just Chariot. and play this. And he does tank there for a while, so I think he has Force Negation. Also, there was like a Magic Online read, which makes me know he has Force Negation, is where he's F8'd, and then I play a land, which triggers Tireless Tracker, and that instantly resolves. But then when I put a spell on the stack, it gives him a priority. So that means like he just basically has to have Force Negation. So he chose to let it resolve, and then I draw these cards. So these are some good cards. Bitter Triumph can kill Ocelot Pride later to kind of maybe allow me to beat Winds of Abandon. It can also kill Hullbreacher, it can also kill like Teferi, so that's a good draw. And then Tishana's here is actually also good because it's going to allow me to try to Tishana's the Shorekai maybe, to say, like, let's say the Winds is not in his top 10 cards or 5 cards. I can stop him from drawing towards it. But here, obviously, we're just going to play Chariot. And that also resolves. And I swing for 4 if he just jumps. So he starts his turn by looting, discards Confluence, and then plays Island. So now he has 5 cards in hand with 5 mana. He can't wins here. Plays Mana Vault. So I'm like, damn, my days is pretty dead now. Basically can't convert on wins at this point. I was hoping if he drew wins next turn, he could like loot and then play land wins and have exactly 7 mana, but one of it was tapped for the Shorekai loot, so then I could daze it, but that's not how it played out. Okay. I draw Swamp, and this is a fucking hard turn. So, the only creature in the graveyard that's relevant is Devoted Druid. I mean, that's the only creature. I have access to, if I play an untapped land, 6 mana, but I don't have an island for days. I'm going to want to attack with Chariot here and Hex Drinker here. I'm at 16, he's at 21. And also maybe Tireless Tracker, depending on if I play a creature before combat. So, I thought that the best way to proceed. Also, in this position, there you have to understand there's like so many counter spells because he has Mana Leak. No, he's No More Lies and Miscalc that I want to play around even on his turn because I'm gonna be trying to Tishana's this on his turn. So that means I'm gonna have to be able to hold up some amount of mana if I want to be playing around those cards at all. So here I deduced that we can Crew Chariot with both the cats. And then actually Tireless Tracker is a pretty good attack here. Especially if he has wins. I want to like try to trade this off for as many guys as I can. But also at this point, I kind of acknowledge that I'm not going to beat Winds of Abandon most likely. It's just going to fuck me. So he still has 23 cards left in his deck. I'm going to hope it's buried in there somewhere. And maybe if I draw something next turn, it'll allow me to beat Winds. But in my current hand, with everything I have, even these clue tokens, I think Winds is just going to fuck me up. I don't really think I have a way to play around it. So I'm just going to try to play as aggressive as I can, right? So I think I'm going to crew the Chariot with both these cats, attack with Hex Drinker, Chariot, and Tireless Tracker, try to make a copy of Cat. I'm going to play my Swamp in combat, or before combat, to have just more mana, depending on if I want to like crack clues and stuff. If he like double blocks, you know? So I tanked on this turn for like a long time, but this is what I ended up going with. Just send in the motherfuckers and see what happens. And here he responds with a Venser, and he taps in a way where he taps his Mana Vault. So this is pretty interesting. He ends up with 1 mana in his mana pool and 2 untapped. So this basically signals that he has to have either No More Lies or Counterspell, or both, I guess. Because there's no other way you wouldn't just like tap all 4 of your lands. He could also have Miscalc too, because this would have tapped him out of blue. Here is another spot where I have to tank a bunch, and I don't think I can really Tishana's this to save my cat, because it's just too bad. Yeah, it's just too bad. I need to Tishana's the Shorekai. It's just playing in a more responsible way. So he bounces the Chariot, I let it all resolve, and I just let him go to block. So I'm like, alright, what are you going to do? So he stacks it up on the Hex Drinker. This is another spot where I can Bitter Triumph to save my Hex Drinker here. This kind of signals that he doesn't have wins, right? If he has wins, maybe he's chumping more and just tapping out to wins. He might keep his Mana Vault untapped. He might not Venser my cat token, so I'm pretty sure he doesn't have wins at this point in his hand, right? Pretty much 100%. So the way to move forward is to try to Tidebinder the Shorakai to give him less draws at wins, because now I feel like I'm kind of ahead. So, also I still have all these clues, so I'm pretty ahead here. So I think I'm supposed to just let these die, make sure my Tidebinder gets around like No More Lies on his turn. But there's also another play we can do here. So I just go to damage here. And then do I end up passing? Yeah, I do. Because I just want to Tidebinder on No More Lies on the Shorakai. I feel like that's the best way to approach this matchup, given like what we know about his whole deck. And Kind of Wins is one of the only cards, if not the only card, that can get him out of this spot. Treachery would be good too, but this is also still good against Treachery, so we just go ahead and pass here and say like, okay, show me what you got, you know? He doesn't untap Mana Vault, and he starts by attacking. This is a good play by him, because if he started by doing this, I could have flashed this in and blocked. But I'm just going to take the Pride damage here. I can Bitter Triumph this on his second main phase before he gets the John anyway. And then he just starts his turn by Shorikaiing here. So I'm going to Tidebinder. And unfortunately he has actual Counterspell, which kind of sucks. Nothing I can do. I go ahead and Bitter Triumph the Pride here because I know I'm always going to want to do this on his second main, because or else he would get like a bunch of shitters to chump. So I just do this now before he gets to draw 2, and I'm really hoping this resolves, because then he basically doesn't have blockers to prolong the game. But he has the Fawn, which is like, which I kind of knew about, right? But this was still like kind of the best spot for me to use my Bitter Triumph, because I have a bunch of clues, so treading this here on his turn is better for me than not doing it at all. So he discards. Does he discard Consider? He discards Consider, right? So that's pretty scary at this point. I'm like, maybe he already found wins, but at this point, I can't really beat wins. But I have some cool options here. So I draw Kaito, which is not a very good draw. I still need to be pushing the aggressive, because if he has wins a couple cards deep in his deck still, I need to be able to win before that. So my Reanimate is going to have to be cast here on something. So I can either get the Hex Drinker back or like the Venser back. I can get the Venser back and bounce the Shorakai. That was the first option I considered. The problem is he knows most of my deck from the last 2 games, so I don't really have much removal. So I think in that spot, I'll go to 7 off the Reanimate, 4 life, and then he could just crew the Colonnade, hit me to 3, and I basically am just going to like die to the Colonnade, swinging again next turn. I don't have any flyers really in my deck, and barely any removal. I have like 1 more Bitter Triumph that I would have to like top deck off these clues next turn. So I don't think that's very good. One play I could do is Reanimate Venser still, but bounce the Colonnade. This makes it so that if he has wins in hand but no untapped land, I would get to convert Daze maybe. But I think I would have to play Kaito too. I basically like don't think I can beat wins at this point. It's not really reasonable to hold up the Daze and do that play. I mean, he can even block for like 2 more turns, so the Daze is really never going to convert on the wins. But the Venser line of bouncing Colonnade kind of seems better than Reanimating Hex Drinker, because Hex Drinker I have so many clues and stuff to do with my mana, and still good cards in my deck, that I don't think I can really be spending mana to level it up. So I think Reanimating the Venser, just to give him less mana, and bounce the Colonnade, which is the biggest threat, is kind of my play right now. Because if I don't, and he just animates this next turn, I'm just gonna lose. It's kind of the same. So I feel like I just need to be bouncing this right now. And getting Venser into play to Crew Chariot and stuff. And I think I end up playing Kaito too, but I start off by surveilling to see, give more information. I've been Sylvan Library. And then I crack a clue for the same logic. Draw Fabled Passage, reanimate Venser, bounce Colonnade, animate Chariot, swing with both, copy Cat. Now I have a blocker for Pride. He doesn't have very much removal left in his deck. Quad blocks Chariot, that's fine. And then I just play Kaito and draw a card. So now I'm kind of playing for next turn, right? I need to draw some stuff to be able to win this. I'm not over the finish line yet. If he has wins, I can maybe still win, but it's going to be kind of tough. I draw Teferi, and I don't have a Plains in my deck, so it's kind of troll. I still don't have a white source. He loots, plays Colonnade, brazens that, so that he gets to get in with the Pride. So, okay, fair play. Okay, and then I went to my turn. I played Fabled Passage and fetched an island. I wanted to do that to get the days online as soon as possible, so that he doesn't brazen in response to anything, and I don't have the island yet. Because I'm going to be dazing this brazen, I assume. And then trying to survive this Colonnade hit. I'm at 5, so I need to play a bunch of creatures here somehow. So basically that means I have to draw with Kaito and then try to draw with these clues and find stuff. So I draw with Kaito and he flashes in Hull Breacher. So I'm going to float a mana and daze. I can't pay for it in full here. I need all my mana on this turn, presumably. And I loot into a Tali. So I'm like, alright, that's my play for this turn. Let's hope it hits well. It resolves, and I hit Portable Hull Lotus Petal. So those are like obviously low end of hits. Kind of wish I hit his wins, honestly, to make it so it's not in his deck. But I cast both of these. I kill his Ocelot Pride. And then I have to say no attacks, because I have exactly 4 blockers to his 4 attackers. And then I can just take 4 in the air. And maybe do something next turn, like maybe flip this. Like, flipping this is pretty... Yeah, flipping this would kill them, obviously, if they attack. So it goes to his turn. And he has wins. And I just die. Because he can crew the 8/8. So super close, grindy games all around. I went to 4 minutes on clock, even though I started with 35. But I just wanted to showcase that. And yeah, fun match.